Following today's indictment of former FBI Director James Comey by Donald Trump's Justice Department, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia put out this statement. I've had my differences with James Comey in the past, but I can spot trumped-up charges a mile away. Trump said he'd go after him, then fired a superb, ethical prosecutor when he refused to bring frivolous charges against those whom Trump perceived to be his enemies. Now he has installed yet another one of his personal lawyers as the interim U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. This one, a Florida insurance lawyer with no prosecutorial experience and no connection to Virginia, to do his bidding. The rule of law must prevail. Joining me now is Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Senator, we spoke about this just last Friday. After Eric Siebert was pushed out, you said at the time that you were worried about who he would be replaced with by. You were hopeful, but you expressed concern about that. And now here we are a week later. I just read some of your fiery statement, but tell us more about how you're digesting this and what you think people should understand about this moment.
Well, Donald Trump has just installed a political hack to do his bidding. Since we talked, Jen, last week, Trump tweeted out essentially a challenge/threat to Pam Bondi saying, you're not going after my political enemies enough. I think that was supposed to be a private message, and it went out to tens of millions of people, and he deleted it because it's the kind of thing that gets cases thrown out of court for malicious prosecution. So he put in a loyalist as interim Eastern District of Virginia U.S. attorney who has no Virginia experience, who has no prosecutorial experience, and clearly he's told her, you've got to go after my enemies. But I'll raise it up one level. If you've looked at our Attorney General Pam Bondi's statement tonight, her statement on the indictment says, we've indicted for the following reasons. And then the last line is, we will follow the facts in this case. Did Pam Bondi go to law school? You follow the facts before you indict someone for a crime. You do not indict them and say, well, now we got to go look for some facts. Her statement shows this thing is a complete political hatchet job. And I think it's going to blow up in the Trump administration's face because having practiced law in the Eastern District of Virginia for 17 years, I don't see any of the judges in this district dignifying this political persecution in any way.
I was just talking to Andrew Weissman about how Comey, and Comey also posted on Instagram and said, let's go to trial. Andrew said he could have a trial within 30 days, or that's his right, as I understand it. You can correct me if I'm wrong there. What does that look like? You said the rule of law should prevail. It doesn't feel like they have much of a case here that they've outlined. What does it look like if the rule of law prevails here?
Well, it looks like there's, motions to dismiss the case for malicious prosecution. There may be some motion to dismiss it on the grounds that the U.S. attorney who is pursuing this is not lawfully in place. There's a statute that says when there's a vacancy, the DOJ can put an interim prosecutor in for 120 days. That 120 days had passed. And after 120 days, only the district court judges in a district can approve somebody to be the U.S. attorney. An article in the National Review, hardly a liberal publication earlier this week, said you can't put a new interim in to do your bidding once the 120-day period is passed. So I think the Comey attorneys have an awful lot of grounds to get this thing thrown out. Look, I've had major differences in the past with Jim Comey that I don't want to really get into. But the guy's entitled to the rule of law. He's entitled to fairness. He's entitled not to be victimized by a clearly trumped up political persecution. And so I'm going to do everything I can as the senator for this state to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't pervert our two U.S. attorneys' offices who have had a high standard for integrity for many, many decades, that he doesn't pervert them and turn them into engines of political persecution.
You may not say it, I'll say it. There may have been a Vice President Tim Kaine and not a Vice President Mike Pence had it not been for James Comey. I won't push you to talk more about that. But let me ask you about Pam Bondi. I mean, There was reports that she did not think there was enough evidence to move forward here. Obviously, we know that that led to Eric Siebert being pushed out. That was the consensus of the prosecutorial memo, it seems, that was given to Lindsay Halligan. Should there be consequences? Could there be consequences for Pam Bondi? I mean, she went against her own judgment.
Well, I will tell you, I think Pam Bondi did a very important psychological reveal in the statement that she put out tonight. If she felt that there was rock solid evidence to indict Jim Comey, she wouldn't have finished her official statement with the line, "We will follow the facts in this case." You know, that's what you do if you're like an investigating officer or even a prosecutor to decide whether to indict somebody. You don't indict somebody and then say, well, now we got to figure out what the facts tell us. She has shown her whole card and kind of revealed that she has deep ambivalence about what Trump is ordering her to do. She's genuflecting to the boss rather than showing the independence that Americans have come to expect from an attorney general.
I used to walk to the other side of the hallway when the attorney general came into the White House. That was my experience.
That was no indication of your guilty conscience, I'm sure. But
I was just independence. You know, one of the concerns that has been expressed, and you may have expressed this when we spoke too, is just there are excellent prosecutors and attorneys who work in the Eastern District of Virginia. They do incredibly important work. It's one of the most important offices of its kind in the country. But the person who's now leading their office just went against their recommendations. Do you have concern that people may, when we already saw that one prosecutor, Comey's son-in-law, resigned, do you have concerns that some of these talented, qualified prosecutors who are doing important work there may walk out the door?
I'm deeply worried about it, Jen. I have worked with this office. I was a city councilman and mayor in Richmond in the 1990s when Richmond had a horrible homicide problem. And we worked hand in glove with the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District, including Jim Comey, who was in the office at the time, to try to come up with strategies to bring down our homicide rate. This district and the Western District of Virginia have stellar reputations for integrity. Donald Trump nominated people for both of these positions after interviewing them and vetting them. And he not only nominated them, but he even appointed them to be interim U.S. attorneys. And he's now fired both of them. You and I are talking about the Eastern District tonight. He also fired the U.S. attorney in the Western District of Virginia. Get this. A former Republican state legislator and prosecutor who became the Republican Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates, a pro-Trump Republican. But Donald Trump and the DOJ tried to push him around to demote people in the office who had served under multiple presidents. And he said, I'm not doing it. So he's out the door, even though Trump nominated him and appointed him to be the interim. Eric Siebert is out the door. Listen, in Virginia, we say Virginia is for lovers. I also say Virginia is for people who have backbone. We're not going to get pushed around, and we're not letting Donald Trump push the federal prosecutors around. So he can put in a loyalist and a hack if he wants to, but I don't think Virginians are going to accept it, and I don't think our courts are going to accept it.
Let's hope not. As a Virginian myself, I do like that motto. We need some T-shirts, Senator. Thank you so much. I don't think there's anyone who knows more about this and the Eastern District of Virginia than you, who's in the Senate, and I really appreciate you joining me.
Glad to be with you, Jen. Thanks.